The morning assembly at Zenith Academy buzzed with excitement. Students from 12 different species filled the auditorium, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of sounds. Principal Vex stood at the center stage, his four arms gesturing broadly as he addressed the crowd. "Today marks a historic moment for our institution," Vex announced, his mandibles clicking with enthusiasm. "We are welcoming our first human exchange student to Zenith Academy." A ripple of whispers spread through the audience. Humans, the species from that dangerous world called Earth. Most students had only heard stories about them, tales that seemed too wild to be true. Myra sat near the back, her soft purple fur bristling slightly. As a Prill, she came from a peaceful world where the biggest threat was an occasional storm. The idea of meeting someone from a Class 7 made her nervous, but she had volunteered to be the human's guide, believing in the Academy's mission of cultural exchange. "His name is Murphy," Vex continued. "He is 16 years old and comes highly recommended by Earth's Education Board. I expect all of you to make him feel welcome." Teacher, the biology instructor, stood from his seat. His feathers shimmered with different colors as he spoke. "This is a wonderful opportunity for learning. As you know, our tradition requires exchange students to bring a companion animal from there. Has indicated he will bring his pet to share with us." The mood in the room shifted to curiosity. Previous exchange students had brought fascinating creatures. The student last year had brought a floating gel blob that hummed pleasant melodies. The student before that had introduced them to a small crystal creature that changed colors based on mood. "What kind of pet do humans keep?" a student called out from the crowd. His feathers rippled in what passed for a smile among his species. "The documentation simply says his companion is named Duke. I imagine it will be something small and manageable, suitable for a dormitory environment." Myra hoped so. She had helped prepare the habitat space in its assigned room. They had installed soft bedding, temperature controls set to mild warmth, and a small feeding station. Everything was sized for a creature no larger than her own head. "We'll arrive in 3 days," Vex said. "I trust you will all be on your best behavior. Remember, humans may look intimidating, but they are individuals just like us. Let us show them the hospitality Zenith Academy is known for." The assembly dismissed, and students poured into the corridors. Myra made her way to the preparation wing where quarters were located. She wanted to double-check everything one more time. "Are you nervous?" asked her friend, a small amphibious creature who floated in a mobile water sphere. "A little," Myra admitted. "I have heard so many stories about Earth. They say it has extreme temperatures, violent weather, and predators everywhere." "Those are probably exaggerations," said, though his tone suggested he was not entirely convinced. "The Galactic Council would not approve exchange students from a truly dangerous species." Myra was not so sure. She had done research after volunteering. Earth was classified as a high-gravity world with atmospheric composition that would be toxic to most species without protective gear. Its rotation caused dramatic temperature swings. The planet hosted countless species of predators, some large enough to hunt in packs. And humans had survived all of that, thrived in it even. That fact alone made Myra both nervous and curious. 3 days passed quickly. Myra stood in the arrival bay with Principal Vex and teacher, waiting for the transport shuttle. Her heart beat faster than normal. Around them, a crowd of curious students gathered, all wanting to see the human. The shuttle landed with a soft hiss of pressure equalizing. The door opened, and Murphy stepped out. He was taller than Myra expected, but not as massive as some of the rumors suggested. His skin was light brown, and dark hair sat short on his head. He wore simple clothing, blue pants and a white shirt with some kind of symbol on it. His eyes, forward-facing like a predator's, scanned the crowd with obvious curiosity and excitement. "Principal Vex?" asked, his voice friendly. He extended a hand in the human greeting gesture. Vex carefully grasps hand with one of his own appendages, mimicking the gesture. "Welcome to Zenith Academy, Murphy. We are honored to host you." "Thank you, sir. I am really excited to be here." Smile showed teeth, which made several students take a step back, but his body language was open and unthreatening. Myra stepped forward. "I am Myra. I will be your guide." "Nice to meet you, Myra." His greeting was warm, and Myra felt some of her tension ease. He seemed kind. Then turned back toward the shuttle. "Let me get Duke. He is probably getting anxious in there." That is when Myra noticed the carrier. It was large, much larger than the small container she expected. The metal structure was reinforced, with breathing holes near the top. Warning symbols in Earth's language covered one side. "That is quite a substantial carrier," Teacher observed, his feathers flattening slightly. "Yeah, Duke is a big guy," said cheerfully. He approached the carrier and began unsealing the latches. "He is really friendly, though. Do not worry." The crowd had gone quiet. Even Vex's mandibles had stopped moving. Myra felt her fur stand completely on end as the carrier door opened. What emerged was nothing like the small, harmless creature they expected. Duke was massive by galactic pet standards. He stood on 4 powerful legs, each ending in clawed paws. Muscle rippled under his coat of brown and black fur. His head was broad and strong, with a long snout filled with white teeth that Myra could see even when his mouth was closed. But the most terrifying feature was his eyes. They faced forward, the unmistakable mark of a predator. Eyes designed to track prey, to hunt, to kill. Duke stepped out of the carrier and immediately sat beside, his tail wagging back and forth. His tongue hung out of his mouth in what clearly interpreted as a friendly expression. To Myra, it looked like a creature displaying its weapons. "Everyone, this is Duke," said, completely oblivious to the shock around him. He ran his hand over Duke's head affectionately. "He is a German Shepherd, best dog in the galaxy." Several students had already backed away toward the exits. A few of the smaller herbivorous species looked ready to flee. Myra found herself unable to move, frozen between her duty as a guide and her every instinct screaming danger. Principal Vex was the first to recover his composure. He said carefully, "That is a predator." Looked confused. "Well, yeah, I guess technically dogs evolved from wolves, but Duke has been bred for companionship for thousands of generations. He is completely safe." "Safe," repeated, his eyes fixed on Duke's jaws, those jaws that could easily crush bone, those teeth designed to tear meat. "That creature is an apex predator from your world." "He is a pet," insisted, still not understanding the problem. "I have had him since he was a puppy. He sleeps in my bed, he plays fetch, he is part of my family." Duke, sensing the tension, leaned against his leg. His tail continued to wag, and he made a soft sound in his throat. It was Duke being friendly. To everyone else, it sounded like a hunting call. Myra finally found her voice. "We expected something small, something that eats plants maybe, not a hunting animal." Understanding finally dawned on his face. He looked at Duke, then at the crowd, then back at Duke. "Oh," he said quietly, "I did not think about that. Where I come from, dogs are just normal. Lots of families have them. Kids grow up with them. They are protectors and friends." "Protectors from what?" Vex asked, though Myra suspected he already knew the answer. "From other predators, I guess," said, "or intruders, but mostly they just keep us company." The implications hung in the air. If humans kept apex predators as companions, what were the actual threats on Earth like? What kind of world required armed guards in every home, disguised as family pets? Myra looked at Duke again. He was panting now, his large pink tongue hanging out. His tail still wagged. His eyes, those forward-facing hunter's eyes, looked around the crowd with what clearly interpreted as friendly curiosity. This was going to be more complicated than anyone had anticipated. The arrival bay had mostly cleared out. Only the essential staff remained, along with Myra, who refused to abandon her responsibilities even if every nerve in her body urged her to run. Duke sat calmly beside, occasionally looking up at his human with obvious affection. Principal Vex had called an emergency meeting of the senior faculty. They gathered in a corner of the bay, speaking in hushed tones while stealing glances at Duke. "We cannot allow an apex predator to roam freely on campus," argued Administrator, a cautious bureaucrat from a species that resembled upright reptiles. "The safety protocols are clear." Teacher ruffled his feathers thoughtfully. "Yet the human seems to have complete control over the creature. Notice how it responds to his presence." "Seems to have control," emphasized. "What happens when instinct overrides training? What happens when it sees one of our smaller students running and its hunting drive activates?" Myra watched during the debate. He sat on the floor next to Duke, stroking the dog's fur and whispering to him. Duke's tail continued its steady rhythm, and he occasionally licked his hand. The bond between them was obvious, even to someone as frightened as Myra. Principal Vex approached, his forearms folded in a gesture that meant serious conversation. "We need to discuss this situation." Stood up immediately. "Yes, sir, I understand there is some concern." "Some concern," Vex repeated. "You have brought what amounts to a weapon to an educational institution. That animal has the capability to cause serious harm." "So do I," said quietly. "Humans are strong, we have teeth. We can hurt others if we wanted to, but we do not because we are civilized. Duke is the same way. He has been trained since he was 8 weeks old. He knows commands, he understands boundaries." "Demonstrate," said suddenly, stepping forward. "Show us this control you speak of." Nodded, he positioned Duke in the center of the bay, then walked 20 paces away. Duke watched him go, his body tense with anticipation but remaining seated. "Duke down," commanded. Duke immediately dropped to his belly, his eyes still fixed on. "Stay." Walked in a large circle around Duke. The dog's eyes followed his human, but his body remained perfectly still. Myra noticed the discipline in Duke's posture. This was not fear or confusion. This was training and trust. "Duke, come." The dog sprang up and trotted to his side, sitting the moment he arrived. Reached into his pocket and pulled out a small treat, which Duke took gently from his fingers. Myra had not even seen the teeth touch his skin. "He knows dozens of commands," explained. "Sit, stay down, come, heel, leave it, drop it. I can control him in any situation." Was not impressed. Training can fail. What if something triggers his predatory instincts? "Then I call him off," said simply. "Duke, guard." The change in Duke was immediate and startling. His playful demeanor vanished, replaced by intense focus. He positioned himself between and the gathered faculty, his body low and ready. A soft growl rumbled from his chest. Several faculty members stepped back. "Duke, release, friend." Just as quickly, Duke relaxed. His tail began wagging again, and he returned to his side looking pleased with himself. "That is the point," said. "Duke does not act on his own, he listens to me, always." The faculty huddled again for another discussion. Myra gathered her courage and approached. Duke's eyes immediately tracked her movement and she froze. "He will not hurt you," assured her. "Do you want to meet him properly?" Everything in Myra's biology screamed no, but she was supposed to be his guide. She was supposed to help him adjust to life at the academy. How could she do that if she was terrified of his companion? "What do I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just hold out your hand, palm down. Let him smell you. That is how dogs say hello." Myra extended her hand, fighting every instinct. Duke leaned forward, his large nose moving toward her. She could feel the warmth of his breath. Then he sniffed her hand carefully, processing her scent. After a moment, his tail wagged faster and he looked up as if seeking permission. "Good boy, Duke, gentle." Duke licked Myra's hand once, a quick warm swipe of his tongue. Then he sat back down, apparently satisfied with the introduction. C smiled. He likes you. Myra her hand, her heart still racing but slightly less terrified than before. He is very obedient. He is a good boy, said, scratching behind Duke's ears. The best boy. Principal Vex returned from the faculty discussion. We have reached a decision. Duke may remain on campus under the following conditions. First, he must wear a tracking collar at all times. Second, you must keep him on a lead when in public areas unless given specific permission otherwise. Third, any sign of aggression will result in immediate removal from the academy. Do you accept these terms? Yes, sir, agreed without hesitation. Though I should mention, Duke would never show aggression without a reason. He is protective, not violent. Protective of what? Asked. Me mostly, and anyone he considers part of his pack. It is instinct for his breed. German shepherds were originally bred to guard flocks. Now they work as police dogs, military dogs, search and rescue dogs. They protect people. A guardian predator, mused. Fascinating. Your species domesticated a hunter and turned it into a protector. We did it with wolves over 40,000 years ago, said. Dogs are not just pets to humans. They are partners, family members. We shaped each other. The implications of that statement hung in the air. 40,000 years of co-evolution between predator and predator, working together, hunting together, surviving together. It explained much about humans and why they seemed so comfortable with danger. Myra was assigned to show to his dormitory. She walked several paces ahead, still nervous about having Duke behind her. The tracking collar had been fitted quickly, a simple device that would alert security if Duke went anywhere unauthorized. Other students watched from doorways and windows as they passed. News of Duke had spread through the academy like wildfire. Some students looked curious. Most looked frightened. Is it always like this on Earth? Myra asked as they walked, living with predators. We do not really think of them that way, said. Dogs are just dogs. Some families have cats too, which are even better hunters than dogs, pound for pound. Birds, rabbits, even reptiles. We keep all kinds of animals. And they do not hurt you. Almost never. There are rare cases, usually when an animal is abused or sick, but millions of humans live with pets without any problems. My little sister is 7, and Duke has been her guardian since she was 4. He would die before letting anyone hurt her. They reached quarters, and Myra helped him settle in. The small habitat they had prepared now looked absurd next to Duke's actual size. Laughed when he saw it but appreciated the thought. He pulled out a large cushion from his luggage and set it up as Duke's bed. Thank you for giving him a chance, said to Myra. I know he is scary to you, but I promise he is a good dog, you will see. Myra hoped he was right. As she left quarters, she looked back one more time. Duke had settled on his cushion, his large head resting on his paws. His eyes were half closed, the picture of contentment. He looked almost peaceful. Almost. Later that evening, Myra attended a gathering of students in the common area. The topic, unsurprisingly, was Duke. I heard he has teeth that can bite through metal, one student claimed. I heard humans use them to hunt other predators, another added. My roommate said Duke is small for Earth dogs. Some breeds are twice his size. The rumors grew wilder with each telling. Myra listened but did not contribute. She kept thinking about how gently Duke had taken that treat from his fingers, how quickly he had responded to commands, how his tail had wagged when he met her. Maybe Earth's predators were not the mindless killers everyone assumed. Maybe, like humans themselves, they were more complex than their reputation suggested. But Myra also remembered Duke's transformation during the guard command. The way his demeanor had shifted from playful to deadly in an instant. That was not training. That was instinct. The question was whether control would be enough when those instincts were truly tested. Time would tell. For now, Zenith Academy had its first human student and his apex predator companion. The real lessons were just beginning. 2 weeks passed at Zenith Academy, and a tense routine developed. Attended classes with Duke at his side, the dog lying quietly under his desk. Students gave them a wide berth in the hallways. The cafeteria cleared a special section where could eat without making others uncomfortable. Duke wore his tracking collar and remained on his lead in all public spaces, exactly as required. Myra watched the isolation wear on. He never complained, but she could see the loneliness in his eyes. He had come here hopping to make friends, to learn about other species, to be part of something bigger. Instead, he spent most of his time alone with Duke. She tried to help. She sat with during meals, though she still kept one eye on Duke at all times. She partnered with him for group projects. Small gestures, but seemed to appreciate them. "You do not have to do this," told her one afternoon as they worked together in the library. Duke was asleep at his feet, snoring softly. "I know it makes you nervous." "I am your guide," Myra said. "It is my job." "It is more than that now," replied. "You have been kind when others were not, thank you." Myra felt her fur warm with what passed for blushing among her species. "Duke is not as scary as I thought he would be." That was true. She had been observing Duke carefully over the past 2 weeks. He was remarkably patient. Students who gathered courage to approach would find Duke sitting calmly, waiting for permission before any interaction. His movements were controlled and predictable. He never lunged, never snapped, never showed teeth except when yawning. But Myra also noticed his constant awareness. Duke's ears swiveled to catch every sound. His nose tested every scent. His eyes tracked movement across the campus. He was always watching, always ready. The predator never truly rested. "He is bored," admitted. "Back home, we would go running every morning, play fetch in the park. Here, he is confined to small spaces with nothing to do." "What is fetch?" Myra asked. Smiled and pulled a worn ball from his bag. "I throw this and Duke brings it back. It exercises his body and mind, keeps him stimulated." "Would you show me?" They found an empty courtyard behind the science building. Unclipped Duke's lead, and the dog's entire body vibrated with excitement. His tail wagged so hard his whole back end moved with it. "Duke, sit," commanded. Duke sat, his eyes locked on the ball. "Stay." Threw the ball across the courtyard. Duke remained frozen, every muscle tensed, waiting. The control was remarkable, then gave the release command. "Duke, fetch." The transformation was stunning. Duke exploded into motion, covering the distance in powerful strides. His speed was incredible for a creature his size. He snatched the ball from the ground without breaking stride and turned back toward. Within seconds, he was sitting at its feet again, tail wagging, ball held gently in his mouth. "Good boy, drop it." Duke released the ball into his hand. The exercise repeated several times, and Myra found herself fascinated. This was not just a predator obeying commands. This was a partnership. Duke was not performing out of fear but out of joy. He loved this game. "Can I try?" Myra asked before she could stop herself. Looked surprised but pleased. "Sure, here." He handed her the ball and positioned her. Duke watched her with curiosity, his head tilted slightly. "Just throw it and say fetch," instructed. Myra threw the ball, though not as far as had. "Fetch." Duke looked at for permission, nodded, and Duke was off. He retrieved the ball and brought it back, but this time he approached Myra directly. She tensed as he came close, but Duke simply sat and waited. His tail wagged. His eyes were bright with excitement. Slowly, Myra reached down and took the ball from his mouth. Duke's tail wagged faster, and he made a soft sound that had told her was called a whine. It meant happiness. "He likes playing with you," said. "He is accepting you as part of his pack." Myra threw the ball again, and again Duke retrieved it. By the fifth throw, she was no longer afraid. Duke was not a threat. He was just a dog playing a game, enjoying himself. That was when they heard the scream. It came from the restricted biology section, an area cordoned off for field research. A young student came running from the entrance, his gelatinous body rippling with panic. "Help, Pip is trapped, the specimens escaped." Was moving before Myra could react. What specimens? Venom beetles from Sector 9. They were supposed to be secured, but Pip wandered in and the containers broke. He is cornered. Did not hesitate. He ran toward the restricted section with Duke at his heels. Myra followed, her heart pounding. She knew about the venom beetles. They were small but deadly, their bite causing paralysis and system failure in most species. They were being studied for potential medical applications, but they were dangerous. Faculty members were already gathering outside the restricted area, but no one was going in. Through the transparent walls, they could see Pip huddled in a corner. The child was maybe 6 years old, his gel body compressed with fear. Around him, dozens of venom beetles crawled on the floor and walls, their pincers clicking. "We need to get protective suits," someone was saying, "and containment equipment." "That will take too long," said. "The beetles are agitating, look at their behavior, they are about to swarm." He was right. The beetles were moving in coordinated patterns, a sign they were preparing to attack as a group. "No one can go in there unprotected," teacher said, his feathers flat with stress. "Those beetles can pierce most natural armor." Looked down at Duke. The dog was alert, his body low and ready. His eyes were fixed on the beetles through the transparent wall. Every line of his posture screamed predator. "Duke can handle them," said. "Are you insane?" someone shouted. "That is a child in there." "Duke is trained for this. German shepherds are used for protection work. He knows the difference between a threat and an innocent." Dropped to one knee, gripping Duke's collar. "Duke, look at me. Guard command, protect the small one. Threats are the small crawling things. Do you understand?" Duke's eyes met. Something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. Then Duke gave a single bark of acknowledgement. Pointed at Pip, "Protect." He opened the door, and Duke shot through like a missile. The change in the beetles was immediate. They sensed the larger predator entering their space. Several turned toward Duke, their pincers raised defensively. Duke did not charge blindly. He moved with calculated precision, placing himself between Pip and the largest concentration of beetles. When the first beetle launched itself at Duke's face, his jaws snapped closed around it in midair. The crack of its shell echoed through the room. Duke dropped the crushed beetle and moved to the next threat. More beetles swarmed toward him. Duke's paws became weapons, crushing beetles with quick, precise strikes. His teeth caught another one attempting to reach Pip. The coordination was perfect. Every movement served to create a barrier between the child and danger. Pip had curled into a tight ball, terrified but unharmed. Duke positioned himself directly over the child, his body forming a protective cage. Beetles tried to crawl up his legs, but Duke shook them off and crushed them under his paws. The battle lasted less than 2 minutes but felt like hours. Duke worked with ruthless efficiency, his predator instincts fully engaged but under perfect control. He never once turned toward Pip with aggression. Every action was defensive, protective. Finally, the last beetle was eliminated. Duke stood over Pip, panting heavily, his fur covered in dirt and beetle fragments. He looked toward through the transparent wall, waiting for the next command. "Duke, gentle, bring him out." Duke lowered his head toward Pip. The child flinched, understandably terrified after what he had just witnessed. But Duke simply nudged Pip softly with his nose, then used his body to guide the child toward the door. When Pip stumbled, Duke was there to support him. When the child moved too slowly, Duke gently encouraged him forward. They emerged from the restricted section together, Duke keeping pace with the frightened child. The moment they were clear, medical staff rushed forward to check Pip for injuries. There were none. Not a single beetle had reached him. Pip's parents arrived minutes later, having been contacted by emergency services. His mother, a larger, rushed to her child and enveloped him in her gelatinous form. His father stood beside them, his body trembling with relief and leftover fear. Then they turned to and Duke. The father approached slowly, his form shifting with complex emotions. "Your animal saved my son." Duke said quietly, "His name is Duke." The father knelt, bringing himself to Duke's level. Duke sat calmly, his tail wagging slowly. "Thank you, Duke. Thank you for protecting Pip." Duke tilted his head, not understanding the words but sensing the gratitude. His tail wagged faster. Around them, the crowd of faculty and students who had witnessed everything stood in stunned silence. They had seen Duke the Predator, Duke the Weapon, Duke the Killer of Threats, but they had also seen something else. They had seen Duke the Protector. Myra approached, her voice thick with emotion. "I did not think that was possible." "What?" asked. "To be so dangerous and so gentle at the same time." Scratched behind Duke's ears, and the dog leaned into the touch, his eyes half closed with contentment. "That is what humans learned a long time ago. The best guardians are not the ones who cannot hurt anyone. They are the ones who can, but choose not to, who save that strength for when it is truly needed." Teacher stepped forward, his feathers displaying colors that meant deep thought. "I believe I owe you and Duke an apology. We judged based on appearance and ability rather than character and training." "Duke is still learning," said honestly. "But his instinct is to protect, not to harm. That is what makes him special." Pip wiggled free from his mother's embrace and approached Duke. The child was still scared, but something drew him forward. Duke remained perfectly still as Pip reached out with a small appendage and touched his fur. "Good dog," Pip said in his small voice. Duke's tail thumped against the ground and he licked Pip's appendage once, gently. The child giggled, the fear beginning to fade. That moment changed everything. Word spread through the academy faster than the original panic. By evening, everyone knew what Duke had done. The rumors evolved from fear-filled warnings to stories of heroism. Myra walked back to his quarters as the sun set over Zenith Academy. Duke walked between them, tired but content. His protective work was done for the day. "Everything will be different now," Myra said. "Maybe," replied. "But Duke is still the same dog he was this morning. Everyone else is just seeing him clearly for the first time." Myra looked at Duke, really looked at him, seeing past the teeth and the muscles and the predator features. She saw loyalty and courage, and a capacity for gentleness that had nothing to do with inability to cause harm. She reached out and touched Duke's head, running her hand over his fur. Duke's tail wagged, and he pressed against her leg briefly before returning to his side. Yes, Myra thought, everything was different now. And maybe that was exactly what the academy needed. The morning after Duke saved Pip, woke to find a crowd outside his dormitory. Students lined the hallway, and when he opened his door with Duke at his side, they did not scatter in fear. Instead, they moved closer. "Can we see him do commands?" a young student asked. "Is it true he can smell fear?" another called out. "My biology teacher said dogs can detect diseases in humans. Is that real?" Blinked away sleep and tried to process the sudden change. Just yesterday, these same students would have fled at Duke's approach. Now they pressed forward with curiosity replacing fear. Duke, for his part, seemed confused by the attention but pleased. His tail wagged as multiple students reached out tentative hands to touch his fur. Gave permission, and Duke sat patiently while dozens of different species experienced physical contact with an Earth predator for the first time. "He is so warm," Myra's friend observed, his water sphere bobbing with excitement. "And his fur is soft." "German shepherds have a double coat," explained, falling into the role of educator naturally. "The outer layer protects against weather. The inner layer insulates. Earth has extreme temperature changes, so dogs adapted. Teacher arrived, pushing through the crowd with polite but firm determination. When you are ready, I would like to invite Duke to my xenobiology class, as a teaching demonstration. Agreed, and by mid-morning he found himself standing in front of a packed lecture hall. Every seat was filled and students sat in the aisles. Duke lay at his feet, occasionally looking up at him for reassurance. Today we discuss adaptation and domestication, began, his feathers displaying colors of excitement. Has agreed to share information about how Earth species evolved alongside humans. This is rare opportunity to understand coevolution between two predator species. Spent the next hour answering questions. He explained how wolves began following human hunting parties 40,000 years ago, scavenging from human kills. How some wolves were less aggressive, more comfortable near humans. How those wolves got more food and had more successful offspring. How, generation after generation, wolves and humans grew closer until they were no longer separate species sharing space but partners sharing survival. Dogs are not tame wolves, clarified. They are their own species now, shaped by humans just as humans were shaped by dogs. We learned to work together. Humans provided food and shelter. Dogs provided protection and hunting assistance. We made each other stronger. But the violent instincts remain, a student noted. We saw Duke kill those beetles. Yes, admitted. Duke is capable of violence. So am I, so are you in your own way. The question is not whether we can cause harm, but whether we choose to. Duke was bred for thousands of generations to protect, not attack, to distinguish between threat and innocent. Yesterday proved his training works. Stepped forward. This raises philosophical question that extends beyond dogs. Humans are also humans are also predators, yet you join galactic community peacefully. Why? The room went silent. This was the real question underlying all the fear and curiosity about Duke. If humans could domesticate wolves into loyal protectors, what did that say about humans themselves? Thought carefully before answering. Earth is harsh. You are right about that, but harshness teaches you to value gentleness. When you know how easy it is to cause pain, you learn to cherish kindness. Humans developed empathy not despite being predators, but because we were predators. We needed cooperation to survive. We needed trust within our groups. We needed to care for our weak and injured because any of us might be weak or injured tomorrow. He reached down and scratched Duke's ears. Dogs taught us that strength without compassion is just cruelty, and we taught dogs that loyalty and love are worth more than dominance. We shaped each other into better versions of ourselves. The philosophical implications rippled through the classroom. These students came from worlds where danger was minimal, where predation was rare or extinct, where survival did not require such careful balance between capability and restraint. The idea that hardship could create compassion rather than cruelty was foreign to many of them. After class, several students approached directly. One was unnamed, whose species came from a low-gravity world where conflict was almost unknown. I want to understand better, said. Would Duke allow me to spend time with him, to observe his behavior? Agreed, and soon he had a small group of students who rotated through what they called Duke study sessions. They watched trained Duke, learning the commands and the reasoning behind them. They observed how Duke responded to different situations. They took notes on his body language, his vocalizations, his interactions. Myra became primary assistant in these sessions. Her initial fear had transformed into genuine fascination. She learned to read Duke's signals, to understand when he was relaxed versus alert, playful versus serious. He communicates constantly, she told the other students. Watch his ears, see how they move toward sounds, and his tail is not just wagging randomly. Fast wag means excited, slow wag means content, low tail means uncertain. Was impressed by how quickly Myra learned. She had gone from terrified guide to confident handler in just a few weeks. One afternoon, Principal Vex requested a private meeting with. Duke accompanied them to the administrative office, where Vex sat behind his desk, his forearms folded in thought. "I must admit I was wrong about Duke," Vex said directly. "I saw a predator and assumed danger. I did not consider that predation and protection could coexist in one creature." "Thank you, sir," replied. "Though I understand why you were cautious, better to be safe than sorry." "Perhaps," Vex agreed. "But I wonder now if we have been too safe. Our academy prides itself on exposing students to new ideas and cultures. Yet we designed our campus to eliminate all discomfort, all challenge, all fear. Students graduate without ever facing genuine difficulty." He looked at Duke, who sat calmly beside's chair. "Your companion has taught us something valuable. He has shown our students that fear can be overcome through understanding, that danger properly directed becomes protection, that strength and gentleness are not opposites." "What are you saying, sir?" "I am saying that Duke's presence here has been more educational than I anticipated, not just in biology classes, but in teaching life skills. Our students are learning courage, discernment, and respect for things they do not immediately understand." Vex stood and approached Duke. The dog watched him but remained calm, trusting his judgment. Slowly, Vex extended one of his four hands. Duke sniffed it carefully, then his tail gave a small wag of acceptance. "Remarkable," Vex murmured. "I spent 2 weeks seeing a weapon, now I see an individual." That evening took Duke for a walk around the campus. It had become routine, this late stroll before bed, but tonight felt different. Students waved as they passed. Some called out greetings to Duke by name. A small group asked if they could join the walk and agreed. They made a strange parade through the academy grounds. A human, a dog, and a dozen alien students from various species, all walking together in the fading light. They talked about their families, their dreams. Duke trotted alongside, occasionally investigating interesting smells or accepting pets from braver students. Myra walked beside, comfortable enough now that Duke's presence felt natural rather than threatening. "Do you have other animals like Duke on Earth?" she asked. "Millions," said. "Dogs, cats, horses, birds. Some families have reptiles or fish or small mammals. We share our lives with them." "And they all evolved on you?" "Every single one. Earth shaped them just like it shaped us, made them tough, adaptable, resilient, but also gave them the capacity for bonds, for loyalty, for love." A small student, barely knee-high to, tugged on his sleeve. "When I grow up, can I visit Earth and meet more dogs?" Smiled. "I would like that. Duke would like that too. He loves making new friends." The walk ended at the central courtyard where students often gathered in the evenings. Tonight, a larger group had assembled and realized they had been waiting for him. For Duke. "We have a request," said, speaking for the group. "We want to create a new student organization, a xenobiology club focused on species and their adaptations. We want Duke to be our mascot." Was surprised and touched. Duke would be honored. What would this club do? Study Earth animals and other species. Examine how harsh environments shape evolution. Learn about the balance between danger and domestication. Maybe eventually coordinate with other exchange programs to meet more creatures like Duke. "And learn that scary and dangerous are not the same thing," Myra added. "Duke is proof of that." Looked down at his dog, who was happily accepting attention from multiple students simultaneously. Duke had no idea he was becoming a symbol, an ambassador for all species. He was just enjoying the moment, surrounded by new friends, secure in his purpose. "Duke accepts," said, "on one condition. This club has to be about understanding, not just studying, about seeing individuals, not just species, about recognizing that where someone comes from does not determine who they are." The students agreed enthusiastically. Plans were made, ideas exchanged, excitement building. What started as fear of an apex predator had transformed into curiosity about an entire category of life most of these students had never considered. As the gathering dispersed, approached privately, "You have changed this academy," the teacher said, "not through grand speeches or dramatic gestures, simply by being yourself and letting Duke be himself." "We did not do anything special," protested. "Duke just did what he was trained to do. I just supported him." "That is precisely the point," replied. "You showed us that peaceful coexistence with powerful beings is not about eliminating their power, but about choosing how that power is used. Duke has power. You have power. You both choose protection over aggression, cooperation over domination." He ruffled his feathers thoughtfully. "I wonder how many other things we fear simply because we do not understand them. How many opportunities we miss because we see danger instead of potential." Later, back in his quarters, prepared Duke's evening meal. Duke ate enthusiastically, then settled on his cushion with a contented sigh. Sat beside him, running his hand through the familiar fur. "You did good, boy," murmured. "Better than I expected. You are showing them what Earth is really about, not the danger but what we do with it." Duke's tail thumped against the floor. He rolled onto his back, inviting belly rubs, the ultimate sign of trust and contentment. Obliged, and Duke's leg kicked happily in response. Outside, Zenith Academy continued its evening routine, but something fundamental had shifted. Students walked the halls with new confidence. Faculty reconsidered their assumptions about safety and growth. And in the center of it all, one dog from Earth slept peacefully, having no idea he had started a revolution in thinking. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, new opportunities for understanding. But tonight, and Duke simply enjoyed the moment, together as they had always been, partners in an adventure neither had fully anticipated. The end-of-term presentation day arrived with clear skies over Zenith Academy. The auditorium was packed beyond capacity, with students sitting in aisles and standing along the walls. Exchange students traditionally gave final presentations about there, but everyone knew today would be different. His presentation was not just about Earth. It was about everything Duke had taught them. Stood backstage with Duke at his side, reviewing his notes one last time. Myra waited with him, having volunteered to help with the presentation. Over the past months, she had become his closest friend at the academy. Her transformation from terrified guide to confident partner still amazed him. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "A little," admitted. "This is the last chance to get things right, to make sure everyone understands what Duke really represents." "They understand," Myra assured him. "You and Duke changed this place." Principal Vex's voice echoed through the auditorium, calling to the stage. Took a deep breath, gave Duke's collar a reassuring tug, and walked into the lights. The audience erupted in applause. Not the polite, obligatory clapping of academic courtesy, but genuine enthusiasm. Saw Pip in the front row with his parents, the young waving excitedly. And the Xenobiology Club members wore matching shirts with Duke's silhouette printed on them. Even the faculty who had initially opposed Duke's presence smiled with approval. "Thank you," said when the applause faded. "When I arrived at Zenith Academy 3 months ago, I brought my best friend with me. I expected everyone to love Duke as much as I do. That did not happen immediately." Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd. Duke sat beside, surveying the audience with calm interest. "I was asked to present about Earth and explain our relationship with animals, but I realized something. This presentation should not be about what makes Earth different. It should be about what makes us all the same." Clicked a button and images appeared on the screen behind him. Pictures of Earth, showing vast oceans, towering mountains, dense forests, and harsh deserts. Earth is classified as a Class 7. That classification is accurate. My planet has extreme weather, dangerous predators, diseases, and countless ways to kill you. Humans evolved in that environment. We adapted to survive. We became strong, resilient, and yes, dangerous. More images appeared: wolves hunting in packs, lions taking down prey, bears fishing in rivers. But survival required more than strength. It required cooperation. Humans are pack animals just like wolves. We needed each other to survive. A human alone in the wilderness will die. Humans together supporting each other can thrive anywhere. The image changed to show early humans around a fire, with wolves at the edge of the light. 40,000 years ago, humans and wolves made a choice. We could compete for resources or we could cooperate. We chose cooperation. That choice changed both species forever. Gestured to Duke. This is the result. Duke is descended from those wolves who chose to trust humans. His ancestors gave up some of their independence, some of their wild nature, in exchange for partnership. And humans gave up their fear, their need to dominate, in exchange for loyalty. He knelt beside Duke, running his hand along the dog's back. Duke can track scents across kilometers. He can hear sounds I will never notice. His bite force exceeds 200 pounds per square inch. He could seriously hurt someone if he chose to. But he will not, because his instinct is to protect, not harm. That instinct was shaped by 40,000 years of living with humans who valued compassion over cruelty. Stood and faced the audience directly. The question everyone asked when I arrived was, why bring a predator to an academy? Why not something safe, something small, something that cannot hurt anyone? He paused for effect. Because that would not teach you anything important. You already know how to be comfortable around safe things. Duke taught you something more valuable. He taught you how to overcome fear through understanding, how to see past appearances to recognize character, how to distinguish between capability for harm and intent to harm. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Duke is powerful, that is undeniable, but his power is not a threat because it is directed by purpose, by training, by love. The same is true for humans. Yes, we come from a harsh world. Yes, we have the capacity for violence. But we also have the capacity for mercy, for kindness, for choosing protection over aggression. Click to a new image showing Duke playing with Pip, the young who Duke had saved. The child was laughing, completely unafraid, while Duke gently playboed in front of him. This is what Earth taught us. That strength without gentleness is just tyranny. That fear without understanding is just ignorance. That the most powerful guardians are not those who cannot cause harm, but those who can and choose not to. Myra stepped forward from backstage and nodded to her. My friend Myra was terrified of Duke when we first met. She will tell you why that changed. Myra took the microphone, her voice steady despite her nervousness. I thought Duke was a monster because he looked like a predator. I was wrong. Duke is not a monster, he is a mirror. He reflects back what you show him. Show him fear and he is cautious. Show him trust and he is gentle. Show him a threat and he is fierce. Show him love and he gives it back tenfold. She knelt beside Duke and scratched his ears. Duke's tail wagged and he leaned into her touch. I learned that my fear was based on assumptions, not facts. Duke never gave me a reason to fear him. I created that fear myself because he was different from anything I knew. Myra stood and looked at the audience. How many of us do that? Fear things because they are different. Avoid entire species or cultures because they come from places we think of as dangerous. Duke taught me to look deeper, to judge individuals by their actions, not their origins. Took the microphone back. Myra spoke an important truth. Duke is not special because he is uniquely good. He is special because he represents what is possible. There are millions of dogs on Earth, millions of cats, horses, and other domesticated animals, billions of humans. We all carry this same lesson, that cooperation is stronger than conflict, that understanding defeats fear, that the harshest environments can produce the gentlest hearts. He clicked to a final image, showing a collage of moments from his time at the academy. Duke retrieving the ball. Duke surrounded by curious students. Duke sleeping peacefully in quarters. Duke protecting Pip from the venom beetles. My presentation was supposed to be about Earth's biodiversity, about the strange and dangerous creatures of a, but Duke taught me that this academy does not need a lecture about alien species. You needed an example of what happens when you give understanding a chance, when you look past fear to see truth. His voice grew softer, more personal. I came here hopping to make friends, to learn, to be part of the galactic community. I was lonely for a long time because everyone saw Duke as a threat, but gradually people started seeing him as Duke, not a predator, not a weapon, just a good dog who loves people and wants to protect them. He looked down at Duke, who gazed back with complete trust and affection. Duke does not know he changed this academy. He was just being himself. And that is the most important lesson of all. You do not have to be anything other than yourself. Your origins do not define you. Your appearance does not limit you. Your capacity for harm does not prevent you from choosing good. Stepped back and gave a command. Duke, bow. Duke lowered his front end in a perfect bow, his tail still wagging. The audience erupted in applause, louder than before. Students stood, cheering not just for words but for everything Duke represented. When the applause finally faded, Principal Vex joined on stage. Murphy and Duke have given us a gift, Vex announced. Not just knowledge about Earth, but wisdom about ourselves. Because of them, we are establishing a new exchange program specifically for species. We want other students like to share their companions and their perspectives. He turned to, you were our first human exchange student. You will not be our last. And because of what you and Duke taught us, future students will arrive to welcome, not fear. Teacher stepped forward with an official-looking document. The faculty has voted unanimously to award Duke honorary status as Zenith Academy's first cross-species educational ambassador. His example will be taught to future students as a case study in overcoming bias through direct experience. Accepted the document, genuinely moved. He had not expected this recognition. Duke just wagged his tail, oblivious to the honor but happy about the positive energy in the room. The presentation ended with an open session where students could interact with Duke one last time. Lines formed immediately. Students who had been too afraid to approach earlier now waited patiently for their turn to pet him, to thank him, to say goodbye. Pip was first in line. The young had brought a gift, a small carved figure shaped like Duke. I made this, Pip said shyly, so you remember me. Duke will never forget you, promised. You were the first person he protected here. That is special to him. Pip gently hugged Duke's neck, and Duke stood perfectly still, accepting the embrace with patient dignity. His tail wagged slowly, gently, a perfect match for the tender moment. One by one, students said their goodbyes. Some thanked Duke for teaching them courage. Others apologized for fearing him initially. A few simply wanted one last pet, one last moment of connection with this creature from a distant, dangerous world who had proven that danger and gentleness could coexist. Approached with the entire Xenobiology Club. We want you to know that this club will continue. We have already contacted 3 other academies about starting similar programs. Duke's influence will spread far beyond Zenith. Felt pride swell in his chest. This was bigger than he had imagined. Duke had not just changed one school, he had started a movement. As the gathering wound down, Myra helped pack his belongings. Duke's cushion, his toys, his bowls, everything went into storage containers for the journey home. The dormitory that had felt foreign 3 months ago now felt familiar. Leaving would be harder than expected. Will you stay in contact? Myra asked quietly. Of course, said. You are Duke's second favorite person after me. He will miss you. Only Duke will miss me. Smiled. I will miss you too. You were my first real friend here. You gave Duke and me a chance when no one else would. They finished packing in comfortable silence. Duke sensed the change, the preparation for departure. He stayed close to, occasionally looking around the room as if memorizing it. The next morning, the entire academy gathered at the arrival bay to see them off. It was unprecedented. Faculty, staff, and hundreds of students lined the corridor leading to the shuttle. They had created an honor walkway, a formal goodbye reserved for distinguished guests. Walked through the corridor with Duke at his side and Myra accompanying them. Students reached out to touch Duke one last time. Some held signs with messages of thanks and friendship. The atmosphere was celebratory but tinged with sadness. At the shuttle, Principal Vex gave a formal speech. Murphy and Duke came to us as strangers from a feared world. They leave as friends who changed our understanding of what it means to be strong, to be safe, to be part of a community. We are better for having known them. Responded simply, "Thank you for giving us a chance. Thank you for looking past your fear. And thank you for teaching Duke that there are good people throughout the galaxy worth protecting." He turned to Myra. "Take care of the Xenobiology Club. Keep teaching others what Duke taught you." Myra's voice caught with emotion. "I will. Promise me you will come back someday." With Duke promised. "When you are ready, maybe you can visit Earth, see where we come from, meet other dogs. There is so much more to show you." They hugged and Duke pushed between them, wanting to be part of the farewell. Myra laughed through tears and scratched his ears one last time. The shuttle doors opened, and Duke climbed aboard, turning for one final look at the academy that had become their temporary home. Hundreds of faces looked back, representing dozens of species, all united in their affection for one dog from Earth who had taught them that strength and gentleness are not opposites but partners. The shuttle lifted off and watched through the window as Zenith Academy shrank below them. Duke settled beside him, resting his head on his lap. The dog's work was done. He had protected when needed, befriended when allowed, and proven that even apex predators can be ambassadors of peace. Stroked Duke's fur and thought about the journey home. Earth would seem different now, not because it had changed, but because it had changed. He had learned that fear is often just misunderstanding waiting to be corrected, that patience and kindness can bridge any divide, that the most important lessons are not taught in classrooms but through lived experience. Duke sighed contentedly and closed his eyes. To him, the adventure had been simple. Stay with, protect the pack, be a good boy. Everything else was just details. But those details had changed an academy, influenced policy, and started conversations that would ripple across the galaxy. Not bad for a class pet. Smiled and closed his own eyes. They were going home, but they were leaving behind something important. Proof that Earth's reputation as it was both accurate and incomplete. Yes, Earth was dangerous. Yes, its creatures were powerful. But that power, properly understood and respected, was not a threat but a promise. A promise that strength can protect, that predators can nurture, and that even in the harshest environments, compassion finds a way to grow. Duke's tail gave one final wag, and then he slept, dreaming, perhaps, of new friends made and lessons shared, unaware that he had become more than a pet, more than a companion. He had become a symbol of what is possible when fear gives way to understanding, when assumptions give way to truth, when one good dog gets the chance to show the galaxy what Earth really means.